Good morning, everyone. Today we're going to work on baby rolls. Haven't gone through baby rolls in a while. So want to work from kind of an outside-in approach, working through kind of opening up the shoulders, opening up the hips, and then working into the spine with the baby roll. And I want to focus less on stretch with the baby roll and more on kind of quality of movement. Feeling each segment, especially around the spine. How well can we move through the baby roll with a lot of breath integration? It's going to be slow. Since we're going to be working a lot through the spine, I want to kind of go over the rules of pain again, just to be very, very clear. I don't want to move into pain, especially getting into our baby rolls, especially if we've got low back issues. So rules of pain are a two-part. First is pain is binary. It is either a yes or a no. You're either in pain or you are not in pain. Slight discomfort is a level of pain. So if we have a yes, then we want to go to our second part, which is quantifying it on a scale of 0 to 10, 0 being not painful, 10 being excruciating. As long as the movement that you're doing, as long as the pain is below a level 3, it's okay to move into it slowly, cautiously, safely, non-forcefully. If it is a 3 or above, then you need to back off. You're pushing it too far. You need to find that kind of juicy area where it's like in that slight discomfort, not elevating into that 3 or above. And the way I define a 3 or above is when you do a movement and it starts to show up on your face, your body starts to clench or grimace, you're moving into a level 3 pain. That is a pain that is now you're getting at a spinal cord level, and we want to not go to that point because that's going to start kicking off pain reflexes, opposite response that we want when we are working at a therapeutic level. So with that, let's get started. We're going to start on the floor going through our crocodile breath or balloon breath, and then we're going to work a little bit of very light baby roll as kind of a pre-assessment. Then we're going to get into our outside-in approach. So laying on our backs, we're going to make a nice big C shapes with our hands. Hands are going to go underneath the ribs and above the hip bone, right in that nice meaty space in the abdominal wall. Kind of pressing in. I want thumbs pressing into the low back. The side of your palm is going to press into the side body, and your index fingers are pressing into the abdominals. And we're going to get a nice cinching of both hands pressing in. This is to create resistance for your inhale to expand out on. So when we breathe in, we're going to bring that breath all the way into our belly, and imagine that belly is blowing up like a balloon, not just forward into your belly button, but also out through the sides and into the low back, into the floor. On the exhale, we're going to draw navel into spine, and we're trying to get all that air out of our bodies, drawing that navel in. As you're exhaling, let your hands cinch in a little bit more to create that resistance. And then nice, slow inhale. Feel the pressure of your inhale pushing out and away into the thumbs, side palms, and index fingers equally. I want to feel equal expansion on the inhale. And then again, nice full exhale as you draw the navel fully in. With each inhale, see if you can expand your abdominal walls a little bit more. You might start to feel some stretch with that inhale breath in the low back, maybe in the side body. And start to kind of notice, where does that breath move easily? Where does it feel restricted? It'll probably flow fairly easily into the front belly button area, and it may be difficult to breathe out through the sides and into the low back, into the floor. And even more importantly is, do you notice that it's harder to breathe on one side compared to the other side? Is one side move more compared to the other side moving less? I want to get enough breaths in that we start to get a good sense and feel so that we can sync this breath through the rest of the session. We're going to go ahead and let our legs go nice and flat, and arms are coming up overhead into a nice Y position. I want to make sure elbows are soft on the floor. So if your arms are overhead and you're finding that shoulder mobility is stiff and tight and you can't get your arms to softly rest, let the arms come out to the side a little bit more until you feel that your elbows can touch and you can be in a nice comfortable position here. We're going to get into our baby roll from here. I want to lift my head and reach across the body, lightly pushing through the heel to see how far can I roll over, as if we're going to roll all the way over onto our belly. But I want to keep that heel in contact with the floor as we exhale. On the inhale, we're coming back to center, and then exhale, going to the opposite side. Again, lightly press into the heel to keep that heel pressed into the floor as you reach across with your hand. Your head should come up off the floor as you reach. Inhale, coming back to center. Again, we're inhaling, filling up that crocodile breath. Exhale, drawing navel in as you reach. We'll just do 5 to each side. Notice how far are you able to go reaching with your right hand compared to reaching with your left hand. Does one side feel tighter, more restricted? Is it painful? Are you staying below a level 3? I do not want to go into a level 3 or above on this movement. After 5, we're going to come back to center. And now we're going to do the same thing, but we're reaching through our legs. So I'm going to lift a leg up. I want to keep that leg elevated. I don't want to drop it down to the floor. And we're reaching across like you're trying to touch the wall on the opposite side of the room. Inhale, bringing that back to center. Exhale, lift and reach across. As you reach, your shoulder blade is allowed to roll off the floor a little bit as long as you have some contact with the floor with your hand or your arm. We're inhaling into that crocodile breath. Exhale, lift and reach across. How does this feel going to the right compared to going to the left? Notice any tightness and stiffness related to the low back and the hip, but also kind of notice the shoulders. Do you feel some tightness in the chest on one side compared to the other? And I want to get a good feel for this because we're going to come back and do these a little bit more extensively at the end of the session. Now we're going to flip over onto our belly. Again, bringing arms up overhead. I want to keep the elbows tight to the ears. It's almost like we're trying to rub our ears with our arm, our upper arm. Legs are flat. Taking a nice inhale breath. We're going to lift with our elbow like we're trying to touch the ceiling. Keeping that elbow tight to the ear, we're going to lift and it's going to roll us over as if we're going to roll from our belly to our back. As I reach and roll, the knee is allowed to slide up a little bit as long as it stays in contact with the floor. Inhale, we're coming back to center, straightening out that knee, and doing the same thing to the other side. Again, I want that elbow tight to the ear. I don't want that arm moving away from the ear up here where we get a whole lot of shoulder mobility, but we're not really moving our spine. I want that elbow scraping on the ear as we lift, leg is allowed to slide. Inhale as we come back to center. Again, I want to make sure we are not moving into a level 3 pain. How does this feel going to the right side compared to the left? You may be getting some stretch in the low back. You may be feeling this in the abdominals. Just kind of notice, where is that restriction and resistance? You also might be feeling this at the shoulders. And then the last one, we're going to bring arms straight out to the side with the palms down. I'll stay in this position for a second. We're going to bend one knee so that the foot is moving, reaching straight up to the ceiling. We're going to lift that knee and heel like you're trying to touch the ceiling with your heel. And from here, we're going to lightly roll that hip over the top of the opposite hip, almost like you're trying to roll onto your back or place that foot flat on the floor. But we're only going to reach as far as we can without the shoulder coming up off the floor. So we're lifting up, reaching across. I don't want that leg to drop down. I'm only going as high as I feel comfortable. Bringing it back on our inhale. Switch to the other side. Exhale, lifting that heel and reaching across. I want to go very, very slow in this. Again, making sure that this is not painful on the back. You may find that you're only able to get your knee and your hip to lift lightly off the floor. That is fine. I don't want to force this. And again, as you're doing it, how does it feel when you reach with your right foot compared to your left foot? Do you feel more tightness on one side of the low back compared to the other? Once we're done with those, we are going to very slowly come all the way up to a standing position, and we're going to grab our staff. Now we're going to get into some shoulder work. So with staff, we're going to start with a nice shoulder width grip. And this is where I want to imagine that we're trying to bend the staff. I'm trying to break it in two. And I want that bending to happen not just at the wrist. I want to feel spiraling through the elbow pits. So elbow pits should be trying to face up towards the ceiling. And also feeling that shoulder blades rolling down the rib cage, packing down towards your hips. We're going to get a little bit of a scoop, tuck of the pelvis underneath so that you feel your lower core is engaged. And I want to maintain this scoop throughout the first part of this movement. So from here, with that nice scoop, tall spine, we're pulling elbows back towards the ears and squeezing back as we exhale. Inhale, letting the arms come forward lightly. Exhale, squeeze. Remember, we're keeping that bend of the staff. I'm very actively trying to break the staff as I squeeze the elbows back. Watch out for the head wanting to slide or shift forward. Trying to keep tall in the spine. With each squeeze back, without forcing it and without going to pain, see if you can squeeze back a little bit more range of motion. We'll do 10 of these, each one going nice and slow, keeping it connected to the breath. After 10, we're going to bring the staff down, move it to behind. Palms are now facing back. Still bending the staff, but we're bending it away from the body. Elbow pits are still spiraling forward. And notice how that spiral, elbow pits forward, draws the shoulder blades down and back and opens up the chest. Feel that nice stretch or opening up of the front of the chest. On our nice inhale, crocodile breath, exhale, we're going to slightly tilt the pelvis again as we lift our elbows up towards the ceiling. As we exhale, Inhale, we're letting them soften. Exhale, lift and squeeze. Again, I want to go slow with our breath, making sure this is not painful. And with each one, we're seeing if we can lift and squeeze a little bit more without forcing it. Again, after 10 reps, you might find you're getting a little shoulder fatigue, which is good. We're going to flip our palms forward, still spiraling the elbow pits forward, feeling that opening of the chest, doing the exact same thing. Scoop the pelvis lightly. Inhale into the crocodile breath. Exhale, drawing navel into spine. As you lift, elbows up towards the ceiling. Inhale, arms soften. Exhale, lift and squeeze. Now, as you lift and squeeze, I want to watch out for the shoulders wanting to round forward. If anything, I want to open up the chest as we lift. See if you can feel a little bit more of that nice opening up through the front as we're trying to get our elbows up a little higher towards the ceiling in the back. Again, you may feel some shoulder fatigue from this, which is good. I want to get the shoulders working. We're going to bring our staff back to the front. We're going to come back to our shoulder width grip, bending the staff, scooping of the pelvis. We're coming back to drawing the elbows towards the ears, but now we're going to work raising and lowering the shoulder blades. So we're going to reach up to the ceiling as high as we can. Feel the shoulders come up to our ears, and then pulling the shoulder blades down and back on the rib cage. Exhale as you push. Inhale as you pull. Now, as we're pulling down, we're not bending the elbows. I want to continue to extend the elbows as we're drawing the shoulder blades down. This can feel really challenging to do. I also want to maintain this tension of pulling the elbows back, so try not to let the shoulders come forward. We're reaching up and coming straight down, maintaining this tension of elbows pushing back towards the back wall. We'll go ahead and let the shoulders drop down, and we're going to go with a nice wide grip. And now we're going to see how much range of motion we have of kind of our skinning of the cat move. I want to go very slow, seeing how far back can we go. However far back you can go, squeeze, and we're going to bring it all the way to hips. Want to make sure we're not going through pain. But if you're able to go all the way through so that you bring that staff back to the back side of the hips and you're able to go back forward, then great. If it's painful, go to the point where you have slight discomfort without forcing it. I want to avoid walking it through. If you got a pinch point in the shoulder, don't try to walk it through that pinch point. Just go to it, squeeze into it lightly without elevating pain, and bring it right back forward. These areas where the joints aren't moving super smoothly, they're not going to get better by forcing it. In fact, it'll make them worse. So I want to work within where the body gives us good access to movement and be playful in those areas. And the more light and playful, the better the joints are going to move, the better the movement will become. All right, we're going to go ahead and set the staff down. We're staying in a standing position, and we're going to kind of get into our bowls of soup work. So I want to start with super spread hands. Spread the fingers out as wide as you can, trying to get your pinky and your thumb moving apart to the point where you feel stress and mild strain within the joints of the hand. We're going to reach straight out to the side. If you have pinch in your shoulders on this, you can drop your arms down a little bit. I want to spiral those palms up towards the ceiling, and we're going to start moving one hand at a time. Keeping the hands actively spread, we're spiraling that hand as far through as we can, specifically focusing on the long arm bone. I want to feel the ball of the humerus sliding around inside the fossa of the shoulder joint. I want to see how far can we internally spiral, how far can we externally spiral. I want to feel some squeeze in both directions. We're going to alternate, spiraling through the left shoulder all the way in, then spiraling all the way out, and then doing the same thing on the other side. Now maintain this outward spiral on the opposite side that's not moving. So keep it active into that outward spiral stretch as you take the other side as far internal. When you bring it out to external as far as you can, then we're keeping it there as we spiral the other side. Notice the quality of how this movement feels on the right shoulder compared to the left shoulder. Is it tighter, more restricted? Is it clunky? Is there a little bit of discomfort? I want to make sure we are avoiding pain. Now, as we're getting into it, we're going to start to combine. As you spiral in, we're spiraling out, and we're going to continue to spiral, allowing the shoulder to kind of roll up and over a little bit. And then doing the same thing in reverse. I want to now start to imagine from fingertip to fingertip, we're a wet washcloth, and we're wringing that washcloth out throughout the upper shoulders and back. So I want to feel that nice wringing out all the way out to the fingertips and all the way into the spine. Again, notice, is this more challenging on the left side or the right side? And we'll bring the arms down, shake them out a little bit. Now we're going to come down to the floor and get into our quadruped, or hands and knees, spreading fingers out nice and wide. Again, that super spread hands. I want to really work to spread the hands wide and active, rounding the palms down, extending the elbows fully without locking. And let's take a couple of nice, big crocodile breaths in through the nose, filling up our core. Exhale, drawing the navel into the spine. Notice how on the inhale, as you draw breath in, your pelvis naturally tilts towards the floor. As you exhale, drawing the navel into spine, you get a light scoop of the pelvis. Allow that movement to happen. I don't want to try to fix it. I don't want to try to stop it. Now on our next exhale, we're going to start to rock forward, loading into the wrist space. Inhale, we're coming back, hips to heels. Exhale, feeling the right wrist compared to the left wrist. We can do 5 up to 10 reps on this. For right now, I'm going to keep the reps low because we're going to be focusing more on the spine. So I'm just going to keep it at 5 reps. On the 5th one, we're now going to turn our fingers out to the side and get into our side-to-side glide. This is that push-pull. I want to push through the palm, feeling that shoulder blade slide off the ribs. And then I want to pull into the palm, feeling that shoulder blade tighten up towards the spine. Both sides are active, so I'm actively pushing with one and pulling with the other. Inhale as we come to center. Exhale as we move to the side, so that we're going slow. Inhale as we come to center. Exhale as we go to the other side. Again, notice the difference of how this feels through the right side compared to the left side. How does the right wrist feel? How does the right shoulder feel compared to the left? Then we're going to spiral our hands all the way back towards the knees, bringing the hands in a little bit tighter. The closer the hands are, the less intense this is. The further out we come, the more intense. I don't want this to be super intense. I want to be able to keep the palms grounded, elbows extended. On our inhale, we're rocking forward, and on our exhale, we're lightly rocking back so that we're getting a nice little stretch through the forearm space. Inhale forward, exhale, drawing that navel into spine. Inhale, filling up our crocodile breath. Exhale, draw navel in. Again, compare how does this feel on the right side compared to the left side. Next, we're going to flip the palms upside down to the back of the palms. This position can be a little uncomfortable, so we're going to allow the elbows to bend. But I want to keep some pressure into the back of the palm, making sure it's not painful. We're going to actively push into the floor to extend the elbows, feeling into any stretch at the elbows. If you feel a stretch, great. That's what I want to focus on. Moving into that nice juicy stretch without forcing it. Inhaling as you allow your elbows to bend. Exhale as we reach into that stretch. With each one, we're seeing if we can extend the elbows a little bit more without elevating that stretch into pain that goes into a 3 or above. I want to keep it below that level 3 in the level of slight discomfort, not pain. If you're able to get the elbows fully extended without any stretch at the elbows at all, then we can do a little bit of rock back, hips to heels. Again, I'm staying grounded and loaded through the back of the palms. And we're going to come off the wrists a little bit. We're going to roll them out. We're going to get a little bit of flow back into them. I got one more thing I want to work on with the wrist and the shoulder, but we're going to move to the feet first and then come back to it. So we're coming back into our quadruped. Now we are tucking our toes. We're turning in the heels tight to each other and tucking the big toe. I mainly want the big toe on the ground and tucked as deep as you possibly can. From here, inhale as we go forward, filling up our crocodile breath. Exhale, drawing navel into spine as you feel your hips sink to your heels and feeling that load into the big toe joint. Inhale as we're coming back up. Exhale as we're going slow into that big toe joint. Want to feel some stretch within the big toe joint itself, as well as going into the arch of the foot. And as you're doing this, notice if you're able to get deeper into the right big toe or the left big toe. Is there a bigger stretch? Do you feel greater tension or resistance on one side? Is it painful? If it's painful, I want to back off and not be in that level 3 or above. I want to stay light and juicy here. Again, we're not going to improve joint quality by pushing into pain. So we want to keep it in that mild discomfort, not forceful, not stressful. Next, we're going to turn the heels all the way out, seeing if we can get all the rest of the toes, the other 4 toes tucked underneath, including the pinky toe, which you may find really difficult to get tucked underneath. Knees may need to come in towards each other a little bit, and the heels may need to be a little bit further away, kind of in a little bit of a reverse frog position. From here, everything else is the same. Inhale into filling up our crocodile breath, moving forward. Exhale, drawing navel into spine as we sink hips to heels. We're loading into those other four toe joints, the outside ball of the foot, and getting a little bit of stretch into the lateral arch of the foot as well. Again, how does this feel on the right side compared to the left? Is there greater tension in the toes or in the lateral arch of the foot on one side that's more than the other side? And is it painful? I want to make, again, I really want to be clear that we are not moving into a level 3 or above pain. Last little bit before we get back to our wrist, I want to flatten out the ankles, so untucking the toes. We're going to do the same rock back, exhaling as we sink our hips to our heels, seeing how close can you get your hips to touch your heels. Inhale, we're coming all the way back forward. Exhale, sitting hips to heels. First thing I want to notice is the front of the ankles. Are they able to go flat to the floor, or is there a little bit of space? As you're sitting hips to heels, can you push your hips down more in order to flatten out the front of the ankles? And do you feel a stretch? Do you feel a stretch that's greater on one side than the other? If you're able to get weight on your hips to heels, we can start to sit all the way back. Again, feel that nice load, and then we're going to come right back forward and unload it into our hands. I'm looking at the quality of that range of motion at the front of the ankles. This is going to be pretty important when it comes to our gait mechanics if you're feeling some tightness or tension on one side that's greater than the other side. So this is a pretty good assessment point. I also want to notice if you're able to get your right hip to your heel as equally to your left hip to your left heel. Does one side feel like you can touch and the other one has some space? That's going to give us some information that maybe there's some swelling or inflammation in the knee joint. All right, we're going to come back up to our grounded palms, spread fingers, spread hands, grounded throughout the palms, extended elbows. And we're going to do similar to the bowls of soup, spiraling all the way up into the shoulder. So we're going to spiral so that the elbow pits turn and face as much forward as possible. And then we're going to internally spiral. I'm moving both at the same time. I want to inhale as our elbows spiral forward. I want to exhale as our elbows spiral internally. Now remember, on our inhale, we're filling up that crocodile breath. That's going to lightly tilt the pelvis towards the floor. On the exhale, we're getting a little bit of a scoop of the pelvis as we draw the navel into the spine. So I want to before we get any too far on this, I really want to focus how much of that spiral can you get between the elbow and the shoulder socket itself, without getting a whole lot of movement into the upper back or the low back. Can you feel that rotational? How far can you get those elbow pits to face forward on both sides? How far can you get them to internally face on both sides? Does it feel different on the left side compared to the right side? Now we're going to kind of take this into some cat-cows. As you internally spiral, we're exhaling. We're going to push into the floor. We're going to scoop the pelvis at the same time as we're drawing that navel into spine. And we're going to see if we can get nice and big and rounded through both the low back and the upper back together. As we exhale. As we inhale, we're going to spiral elbows forward. As that inhale brings our breath into our belly and our pelvis starts to tilt towards the floor, we're going to get a sway in the back and our head will come up. Exhale, spiral those elbows as you push, reach through the floor, scooping the pelvis at the same time. Inhale, elbows spiral forward and head comes up. See how big can you make your breath. Exhale, breath, reach, drawing all that breath out. Inhale, breath. Really fill up that abdominal wall. Can you feel some stretch into the abdominals as you externally spiral, head comes up. Then we'll come off of our hands and we're going to shift into our V-sit position. So getting nice and wide. So we've done some good spiraling work through the shoulders to hopefully help. The shoulders are a little bit looser. Now I want to do the same kind of work getting into the hips, really working into those deep rotator muscles of the hips before we get into the larger external muscles like the glutes and the hip flexors. So we're actively pulling the tops of the foot back like we're trying to touch the shins with the top of the foot, and we're actively reaching the back of the knees down towards the floor. Hands can come back next to the hips, reaching through the floor, grounding down, spiral the elbows out so that we get that nice open chest lifting up towards the ceiling. And from here, we're going to do the same bowls of soup, but we're doing it paying attention to our knees. So I want to spiral both knees out like you're trying to rotate them to touch the floor as far as we can without pain. And then we're going to spiral them in as far as we can as if we're trying to touch the floor without pain. We're going to inhale as our feet come up to the ceiling, to square with the ceiling. We're exhaling as we spiral out, and we're exhaling as we spiral in, but we're inhaling on the way back in between. Try to increase that squeeze into rotation externally and internally. Go slow with your breath. I want to make sure that this is not painful. Notice how does the right hip spiral compared to the left. Again, actively pressing the knees down through the floor the entire time. Actively pulling the tops of the foot back the entire time. See if you can get how much external spiral and internal spiral you're able to achieve after about 5 or 10 reps of slowly moving into it more and more on each one. And compare, how does that right side move compared to the left side? Are you able to go as far? Do you feel some clicking along the way? Is one side, especially like the internal or the external, do you feel a little click or a little, what feels is just not very smooth deep in that hip socket? If so, I want to make sure you're not moving into pain. Is it painful? If it's not painful, then I want to just be really soft and not stressful with it. Now we're going to add another layer to this. We're going to start doing some ankle rolls. So as you spiral the knees out, we're going to point our toes and then spiral our knees in and pull the toes back. As you pull them back, you're spreading the toes out wide, trying to pull the top of the foot back to the shin, spiraling all the way out and pointing. We'll do 5 in one direction. As you point, you can start to flex the toes, trying to grip them lightly, making sure that you don't get like a little Charlie horse in the arch of the foot. And as you're pulling back, trying to spread them wide. After you go 5 in one direction, then we're going to reverse directions and do the same thing. See if you can feel some nice kind of flossing type stretch around the ankle joint, especially as you point and then spiral. Does that stretch feel more? Does that flossing stretch feel greater on the right ankle or the left ankle? Good. After about 5 of those, we're going to come back to our starting point of active knees down, actively pulling the tops of the foot back. And I want to get into some light fold work in order to get some length through the back of the legs. Nice inhale. On the exhale, we're going to reach with both hands perfectly square. I don't want one hand reaching a little further, keeping those fingers even as you exhale. Inhale, we're coming back to center. I like to think of my hands as a wave moving up the beach and then receding back. With each one, I want to keep it nice and in flow with breath. Again, exhale as we reach, drawing navel into spine. Inhale into that crocodile breath. Notice, where do you feel this stretch-wise in the legs? Do you feel it in the calves, back of the knees, high in the hamstrings, or do you feel it more in your low back? Now we're going to start to move a little bit side to side, reaching to the right side. As I reach to the right, I want to turn my shoulders and keep my fingers even. And then I want to do the same thing to the left, keeping hands even, shoulders are square. Going back and forth. We can even start to move a little bit all the way out to the heels. As we get a good few reps, keeping the knees active to the floor, actively reaching down, now we're going to change that a little bit. As you reach, allow that knee to soften and bend a little bit. Allow it to move up to the ceiling. You're going to should give you a little bit more room for your hands to move, and it'll change the nature of the stretch you're feeling in the back of the leg. Again, how does this feel reaching to the left compared to the right? Now we're going to shift into our shin box position. I'm in my left side shin box, left palm is down. I want to work back hip. I'm seeing if I can touch the bottom of the back hip to the floor, and then I want to lift it up and roll it over the top of the front hip. And as I do so, I'm exhaling, drawing navel in and scooping that tailbone forward. I want to see if we can feel a little stretch through the front of the hip. Inhale, we're going to let that hip reach back down. Can you touch the floor? Exhale. How much can you scoop over the top? I want to think about the inside of this knee as a pivot point. I'm kind of pushing into that knee as I scoop to feel that stretch. Hopefully you're feeling it move down into the groin and not to the outside of the thigh. After about 5, we're going to switch to the other side and do the same thing. Again, palm is grounded. Spiral that elbow out to open up the chest. Can you feel that back hip touching the floor? Exhale, drawing navel to spine, letting it roll over the top of the other hip, scooping into it. Is it tighter on this side? Is it harder to move? Is it a little uncomfortable? Is it painful? I want to make sure we're not moving into pain. My left hip is generally my chronically tight hip, especially through the anterior hip compartment. So this is tight on me right now. Each one, exhale, drawing navel in, scooping just a little bit more without forcing it. We're going to bring that across to the other side. Now we're going to get into our folds from our shin box. I want to use the shin as my reach. We're reaching through the shin. I want to keep shoulders square with the shin. So let that knee be a little bit more open. I don't want that heel pulled all the way in. That way we can stay square with the chest. We're gonna do inhale into our crocodile breath, exhale, drawing navel into spine, and both hands, again, reaching evenly. I don't want one hand reaching farther. How far can you reach both fingers together? Inhale, coming all the way back. Exhale, seeing if you can reach a little further without forcing it. After 5, we're going to switch and do the same thing on the other side. Again, shin is nice and open, square with our chest. Inhale into the crocodile breath. Exhale as we reach both hands evenly. Notice if that's harder to do on one side. Is it harder to keep both hands square? Does one hand want to reach further on one side of your shin box more so than the other side? Again, this becomes a really big assessment point. With each one, we're seeing if we can reach a little further. And now I want to start working a little bit side to side. So we're going to go from one side and get a nice reach with our hands even, moving through that shin. And then we're going to go to the other side and do the same thing. As we're going side to side, we're going to see if we can start to reach through our back leg as we're reaching forward with our hands. So as we're reaching forward, we're also sliding that back foot. Don't go far to start with. Start with a slight reach as you reach your hands. And then do the same thing on the other side. I want to stay slow and in control. I want to notice I'm less concerned about the stretch, and I'm more interested in the quality of the movement. How smoothly can you slide that back leg while you're reaching? Does it feel clunky? Does it feel a little stressful? Are there pinch points in the hips? I want to go slow so that we can focus on the quality of that movement. I'm less concerned about how far you go. With each one, we can see if we can reach a little further without forcing it, without taking it into pain and discomfort. I'd rather make this smooth than work on reaching far, especially if we're going through pinch points going quickly through pinch and not really paying attention to that part. The pinch is the more important thing to focus on here. I don't want to move through a pinch, especially if it's uncomfortable. I want to move up to that point and be playful, be light with it. The smoother we can get that area of the joint, the more the rest of it will open up. All right, so now we're going to come to an inverted sit position. This could be cross-leg, it could be knees bent, grounding palms down to the floor. I want to spiral those elbow pits out and feel that nice open chest. Really reaching down through the floors. I want to keep the shoulder blades pressing down the rib cage. Feel the chest lifting up. We're going to get into some neck mobility, and then we're going to come back to our baby rolls. So from here, we're going to check our blind spots. Looking over the right shoulder, nice squeeze as you exhale. Inhale to coming to center, exhale, checking our left shoulder. I want to squeeze from the chin. I'm trying to reach the chin as far over the edge of the shoulder as I can. Notice how that feels when you look to the left compared to the right. Keep both palms grounded down as you spiral into each position. Make sure you're not moving into pain. I want to keep the neck discomfort at a 2 or below. I want to be even more sensitive with the neck, that we're not moving into painful positions. How far are you able to go with the left chin compared to the right, on the left side compared to the right side? Is one side tighter and more restricted? Next, we're going to do our side tilts, slightly tilting the head to the side and then lifting that ear like you're trying to touch the ceiling with that ear. Still actively pressing down through the palms, especially the palm of the side of the ear that you're lifting. As you're lifting that ear, you can press that palm more squarely into the floor. I want to watch out for the chin sticking out as you're doing this. If anything, feel that chin drawing in as you're lifting that ear up towards the ceiling and pressing the palm down to the floor. I don't want that chin to go out. We're going to get the wrong kind of areas of wrong joint mobility with that. Keeping that chin in will kind of get us right where we want to be, into this nice little triangle into the neck. On these, you can also play a little bit with jaw mobility. As you lift your ear, pressing into the floor, open up your jaw, stretch out the jaw a little bit. Notice if you feel greater tension in the one when you do that to the right side compared to your left side. Next, we're going to work on our side-to-side glide. Now, this is the one that's always really difficult to do, especially if you don't have a mirror to look into. We're still grounding palms down. I want to keep the cheekbones even, and we're seeing how far can you slide and glide the head side to side. So again, grounded palms, spiraled elbows, open chest, and you're reaching that cheekbone across one side and then across the other side. I want to avoid moving from the shoulders, keeping the shoulders still, only moving at the head. Exhale as you reach that cheekbone over the shoulder. Inhale as you come to center. Exhale as you go across to the other side. Nice. Now we're going to move back, come back to our laying on our back. Now we're going to get back into our baby rolls, and we're going to add a little bit more to this. So arms are coming back overhead into this nice Y position. Before we get started, I want to bring that breath into our crocodile breath. We're breathing out, or expanding out on our inhale, drawing navel into spine on the exhale. On that inhale, as we inflate, on the exhale is where we're going to reach. Again, I want to kind of allow that heel to push down into the floor to see how far can we reach across the body. Inhale as we come back to center. Exhale as we reach across the other side. With each one, We're seeing if we can reach our fingertips a little bit further, keeping that pressure of the heel down to the floor. How does this feel reaching across with the right compared to reaching across with the left? On our fifth one, as you reach, I want to reach and hold, and I want to kind of stay with a little bit of light tension of our reach, but we're going to come back and focus on our breath here. So in this position, I want to breathe into our crocodile breath. Now, because my right hand is the one that's reaching, which means my right side body is off the floor, it's going to be easier to bring breath into that right quadrant of the abdominal wall. So we're going to get a good 3 to 5 breaths, crocodile breaths. In, feeling that inflation into that area of the lower core. Exhale, we're reaching a little bit more with our fingertips, and we're reaching away with our toe tips. Inhale into the crocodile breath. Exhale as you reach. We're going to bring that across, and we're going to do the same thing on the other side. As we get into that reach, light tension, bringing that breath into the side body, belly that's off the floor. Inhale, inflating into that abdominal wall. Exhale, reaching and extending the fingertips and the toe tips away from each other lightly. We're going to bring that back to center. Now we're going to do the same thing, reaching across with the legs. So again, when we lift that leg up, I want to keep it elevated high, and I'm reaching across high. I don't want that foot to drop down to the floor. We're going to reach across. The shoulder blade is allowed to come off the floor, but I want to keep some contact with the back of the hand or the arm on the floor. Inhale as we come to center. Exhale as we reach across. With each one, seeing if we can reach a little further without going into pain or pinch, especially in the low back area. I also want to avoid pain in the shoulders, so making sure that the shoulders feel safe as well. And just like we did with the previous movement on the fifth one, I want to reach and I want to hold that reach, maintaining some tension. And we're going to bring in 3 to 5 breaths, filling up this abdominal wall. On the inhale, exhale, drawing navel to spine, reaching those toes a little further. Inhale into that crocodile breath. Exhale and reach. After 3 to 5, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Reaching across, pointing those toes, keeping the hand or slightly in contact with the floor. Inhaling into that abdominal breath. On the exhale, reach a little further. Inhale, inflate that abdominal wall. Exhale, feel that nice extension. Again, avoiding pinch or pain. After 3 to 5, now we're going to flip over onto our belly. Arms are overhead. This way I want those elbows tight to the ears. Inhale, inflating the abdominals. Exhale,
Lifting up that elbow tight, rolling across. Again, the knee can slide up as long as it stays in contact with the floor. Inhale as we come back down and across to the other side. Don't try to avoid allowing that elbow to come away from the ear. I want it tight to the ear as we reach across. It's like we're trying to roll all the way onto our back, or as close as we can without our knee coming up off the floor. How does this feel reaching through the right side compared to the left side? On the fifth one, as we come into it, I'm going to come to the other side so I can have a better view. We're going to find light tension, but not major tension. We're going to do the same breath into our core, but I also want to add in some bowls of soup with the shoulder that's off the ground. So we're going to spiral the palm, spread the hands, spiraling that palm open and spiraling it closed, turning internal and external. I want to be very, very slow and small with this movement to make sure it's not painful at the shoulder. We're still reaching away as we're doing this, so this is going to be a very light spiral. If there is some discomfort, then be really soft with it. I don't want to move into that pain. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So opening up, getting into that nice open position, continuing with our crocodile breath, and now working through some light bowls of soup. Spiraling through, spread hands. How does that shoulder feel on this side compared to the other side? After a good 3 to 5 breaths, we're going to bring the arms straight out to the side with the palms down, bending one knee, lifting that heel up towards the ceiling as high as you can, and then opening up the hip like you're trying to roll that hip all the way back, only going as far as you can without the shoulder lifting up off the floor. Inhale, bringing it back down, switching across. Exhale, lifting the heel and reaching across. It's like you're trying to reach to touch that foot flat to the floor, except you're only going as far as you can without your shoulder lifting up off the ground. Going nice and easy, side to side. I don't want to be stressed here. I don't want to overreach this movement. I want to stay in that nice, light and juicy, playful. After 5 of these, we're going to come all the way down, flip back over onto our back, make our big C shapes with our hands, and finish with 5 to 10 nice big crocodile breaths. Each one seeing if you can inflate a little bit more. Exhale, drawing navel all the way into spine. Cinch the hands just a little bit more as you exhale so that you have some resistance to inflate into. Notice, how does this feel compared to when we started?
Do you feel like you got a little bit more room for air capacity to come in? Can you inflate a little bit farther? And then let's let our hands drop down to the side. We're going to soften the breath. We're still doing the crocodile breath, but we're not quite forcing it as much. I want to let that breath come up into the ribs a little bit more, maybe up into the neck, kind of breathing into tension in the body on the inhale. And then on the exhale, allow that tension to just rinse off the body onto the floor. Anywhere where you're noticing tension, focus that breath, inhale breath, breathe into that tension. And then on the exhale, allow that tension to go. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and slowly get up.